So guys, I've just finished watching the first episode of Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, and I'm definitely glad I've waited to watch this. I'm definitely glad that it's part of the canon, and we're seeing some really good stuff. Now, it doesn't really give us a lot of information here in this first episode. It's very much kind of like a teasery episode, which, considering there's only 4 episodes in this season, working out at 2 hours for the full playthrough, I possibly expected a bit more to happen within the first quarter of the series. Not to say that it's slow or anything like that, but we haven't got any concrete information. It's very much teasing of an upcoming storyline. It's very much is there something with this character? What's going on with this character? So Resident Evil Infinite Darkness is set post Resident Evil 4. It actually starts off in the year 2000, where we see a civil war in the Middle East. US are involved, trying to do what the US do, where they obviously are trying to bring peace to the country. Sorry. During this time, we see a helicopter get downed and some of the US army get taken captive. Later on, we then find out what's happened to these captive members, that they have all been completely butchered, and that the people involved in the Civil War are dead proud of what they've done. They're dancing around, throwing petrol on the corpses and stuff like that. And it is all very much a horrific scene. Until we then see this guy walking up to this corpse that's hanging upside down, and boom, eyes open, and we know that one of them's turned. What we don't know is how they've been infected, why they've been infected, or anything like that, or what's caused this kind of thing. What I will say is when the eyes open, they do kind of have this kind of bright yellowness to them. This kind of reminds me of Resident Evil 5. It reminds me of the Ouroboros infection, as we don't know what infection this actually is. Now, we don't see any tentacles or head splitting open or anything like that we would do with the Ouroboros infection. However, this does kind of feel a bit like that. So anyway, we then jump to 6 years in the future, where we have Leon on his way to the White House. We see these 3 other special agents in the White House. We have this woman that is very reminiscent of Ada Wong, that people definitely thought when they saw the casting and the imagery and stuff like that, that was going to be Ada and this was going to be a big return. Unfortunately, I can tell you this is not Ada. Never know, she might appear later on in the series. It is a Leon storyline, so what is a Leon storyline without an Ada appearing? We then see another agent who looks very much more inexperienced, I would suggest, and then an older, hardened agent. This guy is very much more bulky, shady, quiet, and stuff like this. The younger agent then turns around and basically tells us, when he finds out that Leon's the 4th agent on his way, that he doesn't believe that Leon is actually a good agent, that he's only here because he fell into the wrong place, i.e. Raccoon City, at the right time. I don't know how you can call it the right time, that he fell into a zombie apocalypse and was very close to being mutilated time and time again, or that his future things, such as the Degeneration film and the Damnation film, and of course then you've got the obviously Resident Evil 4 involvement, Resident Evil 6 involvement. However, that hasn't happened at this point in the storyline. And of course, he also is a brief conversation with Chris in Veronica X via email. So we know that obviously Leon does deserve his role within the US Special Force of, I can't actually remember what it's called, I think it's like DSO or something like that. And this guy is just a bit of a non-believer about him. We then kind of find out that there's been a attack on the White House, a cyber attack on the White House, where some information has tried to be taken from a government server. We find out later on what this information is, that it is military secrets revolving around a factory that was being watched in China for possible bioorganic weapon creation. Well, it says bio something. I'm assuming that's what it is. It's been like 20 minutes since I watched it, and this is possibly the 5th time I've tried to record this. So yeah, some information's kind of starting to go away because I don't write anything down. So we find out that's what's going on. We then see a complete blackout at the White House. Nobody knows anything about it. There's no communications or anything going on. All CCTV's cut. There's no backup power or anything kicking in. So there's been a full-blown attack on the White House. with absolutely no evidence left behind at this point. We see the agents go out to try and survey the White House while making sure that the president is kept under lock and key. This is President Graham, by the way, the father of Ashley Graham, because this is pre-6, he is still alive. And we do see some nice photos of Ashley sat in the background, so kind of hope it. I'm kind of expecting her to make a return in this series, but I also kind of hope she doesn't. I think she is probably one of the more talked about side characters, but mainly because of how annoying she was. So these agents go out. Leon hasn't arrived yet, and we see the more inexperienced agent bump into a member of the a US secretary. He starts talking to him. This guy turns around and says he was attacked from behind, and he doesn't know anything else. What I would say is when you see this character, it definitely doesn't look like he was attacked from behind. He's got a big cut down here, he's got some cuts on the side of his face, and then he's holding the back of his head where he's initially been hit. So the way he acts kind of shows that he's been hit in the back of the head, maybe knocked out, and he's come to, or he's holding the back of his neck or something. So it kind of very much seems like it was a blurred attack of smack, he's out cold, carry on. But the other wounds on his face suggest something different. So we see this guy then kind of looking after him, and this shadier, older agent shows up right on cue and then disappears again. Within this time, we see this secretary start to turn, and this inexperienced agent really not quite understand what's going on or how to react. So this zombie dives at him. It is much more of a fast-paced zombie again. They are like Vendetta level kind of movements, if you've seen that film. There is some hand-to-hand combat that goes on, and one scene where he actually flips this zombie backwards and he lands on a chandelier. So how much strength is in this guy's bloody legs that he flips an adult male so high in the White House that he lands on a chandelier? What the hell is that? But as soon as this chandelier comes down, he then pulls his gun out and says, like, look, stop coming at me or I'm going to shoot. He takes about 6 or 7 shots, hitting arm, shoulder, legs, and obviously it keeps coming. And as it's about to land on him, we get a single gunshot to the head, and Leon is stood behind him. So we know that Leon's arrived, and that everything's going to be wonderful because Leon's the saviour of all, apparently. These 4 agents get back together. They agree to go and send the president into a bunker, and they must at all costs get the president into a bunker, and everyone else is expendable kind of thing, because that's how America works. So they go and try and take this guy in. The more inexperienced agent goes in with them into the bunker for protection, and does kind of have this little bit of a moment with Leon where it's like, this was the first zombie I've ever seen, wasn't quite sure how to react. It's like, well, first of all, he's shooting in the head. That's pretty much rule 101. Don't try and converse with the goddamn thing, telling it to stand down. So yeah, he goes in, and then you've got the 3 agents left on the outside. So you've got Leon, you've got the girl, and you've got this shady older character. This shady older character, by the way, is also in the opening sequence in like a media flash up thing. It just circles him and says hero or something like that. So there's definitely more of a story to him here. So we then see the young female agent go start looking into this room, and we see paintings of Washington and stuff like that up on the wall. And then she gets jumped, a bit of a jump scare attack from another zombie behind her desk. She takes a shot at it, kills it, starts to walk up to it, and you have this camera kind of panning into her as if there's another one coming up behind her that she's unaware of, and she turns, and it's the other agent, the hero agent, that's looking very shady and stuff like that. Does have his gun drawn, but obviously they are in a combat situation. But it does very much seem like he purposely snuck up on her. He didn't announce his presence or anything like that. It wouldn't have surprised me if maybe in a different decision that he was going to kill her at that point and take her out. But that is full on just a theory at the moment. We then kind of get all this blackout information out of the way, and again we learn about the information that was on the server that they tried to hack. And then we jump to Claire, who is in the aftermath of the Civil War in this Middle Eastern country, where she meets this young child who's in a wheelchair, and she tries to introduce herself and say that he's safe and blah, 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 and she'll help him and all this, and then finds out that he's mute. from this other guy that's there, he tells her that this child was mute and he was involved in the Civil War. He saw a lot and he doesn't talk of anything. And she basically sits down with him and goes, you must have seen a lot of disturbing information and stuff like that. And basically you can't process it or speak to anybody about it because you're mute. He does have this little art pad on him. So she has a look at this art pad and it's all these gruesome scenes of zombies eating people, things on fire and stuff like that. And it is obviously a carry-on from the first opening scene that we saw of this like section of Civil War. So we see here that the outbreak did actually, from these original 4 that were infected, kind of jump out and affect the whole area. So how this wasn't reported or became a international incident and as yet somehow died out at the same time is something that's going to be very interesting to find out down the line, because it looks like there's been no army involvement, no BSAA involvement or anything like that to take on this infection, but it's just gone now, or it's gone into hiding or something. But either way, there's something very strange about the way that the Civil War was dealt with. From here, we see Claire in the White House, where she is trying to have a meeting with the secretary that has been killed, the first person to turn in the White House. The White House staff are all lying to her, saying, oh, he's gone away, he's on holiday, blah, blah, blah. Obviously trying to keep this out of public information, out of any newspapers or anything like that there's been an attack on a White House. Because let's face it, the most secure place that's supposed to be in America is the White House. So if they can attack the White House, where else can they attack? And they don't want to cause this fear to the general public. So anyway, she then sees Leon. They have a bit of a conversation. She shows him the picture from the child and says, like, look, isn't this exactly like Raccoon City? Doesn't this look like an infection, an outbreak and stuff like that? And then comment about how he doesn't suit the suit that he's wearing, because, you know, Leon doesn't wear a suit. And then he tells her not to be stupid and goes her own separate ways. We then see another US secretary barge in on the president and basically tell him, like, look, we know this information is from China. We have to go and investigate China, and obviously this is a complete breach of international agreements. This is basically an act of war, blah, blah, blah. And then they go on this stealth submarine, and they're on their way to China. So the first scene on the submarine is we have the 3 agents that are still there. So you've got Leon, obviously the girl, and the Shady Bloke. Shady Bloke is how I'm going to refer to him for the whole goddamn thing, because I don't actually think they've mentioned his name yet. He is referred to as the hero of whatever the country was from the Civil War, but I prefer the name Shady Bloke, so we're going to go with Shady Bloke, because, you know, that's what he is. So this Leon's asking about information about the mission, and this bloke is constantly just going, it's classified, it's classified, it's classified, it's classified. I did expect a 7-minute joke in there, because there was a bit where he goes, so what's the time limit? It's classified, but it's like, could have got a 7-minute destruction sequence in there. For any of you that don't know this, Resident Evil is famous for ending each game with a 7-minute countdown to a self-destruct kind of thing that you have to go do. So the fact that we didn't get a 7-minute joke there is a bit disappointing. But yeah, so what I find really strange about this is because this is post Resident Evil 4, so this is post Leon solo going in and rescuing Ashley Graham, bringing back the president's daughter and stuff like that he isn't at a level that he is allowed to know this information. It just seems very strange that this other guy has higher clearance than Leon. I would have thought Leon was top of the top. I mean, he's actually referenced as being friends with the president because of everything that he's done. So it just seems very strange at this point that this guy has this information. He's not going to tell anyone. We then get a little bit of a chat between this Asian woman and Leon shows that he definitely has a thing for Asian women, asks her out for a date after mission, and she says it's classified, blah, blah, blah. So, post this scene, we see Leon walking down the corridor, where he sees Shady Bloke in a bathroom, kind of grunting and gripping onto a sink, and we can see a syringe in his hand. So, from the noises he was making and stuff like that, I would expect him to be infected. I would say there's a few outcomes here. I'm going to say he was infected during the Civil War, and this is why he doesn't tell anyone about what's happened. Somehow he's got hold of some form of medication to keep his infection at bay, where he must take it on a regular occurrence kind of thing, because it seems to be at this point the virus is taking hold of him, and then he's used that to withstand it. Or he is shadier than shadier, and he's actually full-blown bad guy, and he's experimented on himself to try and maybe give himself superhuman traits or something like that, similar to Wesker or any other the villains really that have appeared in the animated films, because I'm sure they all end up infected by the end of it. So it seems to be that there's definitely some more information here that's going on. What I've been questioning currently is that, so this shady bloke has more information than Leon, and he seems to maybe agree with the secretary that comes in that tells the president that they have to go and investigate China. To me, I'm wondering if that guy is heading up and maybe an organisation within the White House has created the original attack, and that this shady bloke is actually working for him. So that could be why he has more information, because when the mission does go ahead, the president does tell the secretary, you go and set it up. So the president doesn't actually have any connection to this. It's all that bloke that's gone and set it up, as far as we're aware, which could be why only shady bloke knows any information about the mission ahead. So I'm either saying the shady bloke is full-blown evil, or he's going to do evil things because he's infected. Maybe he hacked the server to try and find out information to create a cure for himself, but either way, there's something much more going on with this shady bloke. I'm wondering how long I can go on calling this bloke shady bloke. So then we kind of skip back 6 years, and then we see the infection start at the at that point in the Civil War, where we see the 4 US agents turn and start attacking everybody there, and then it zooms into this little, what looks like a rubble prison that's been made, which has the child in there that was the one that did all the drawings. And then that's the end of the first episode. So I can say it doesn't really give us any information. We don't know who's the bad guys. We have our speculations. We've seen some of the new main characters. We obviously know that nothing is going to happen to Leon, that nothing's going to happen to Claire, nothing's going to happen to the president, because all those 3 appear in Resident Evil 6. What this could be is because we know that they are going to China to investigate this factory, that this could be leading us to the C virus, because they do actually say, look, is it the T virus from the first zombies, or we won't know until the investigation's been done, blah, blah, blah. So this could be the lead up to Resident Evil 6. This may try and offer some saviour points to Resident Evil 6, but let's face it, the issue with 6 wasn't the storyline, it was the gameplay itself. So personally, I've really enjoyed that first episode. It's kind of made me want more. But it's not giving me enough information to really speculate on a lot of things that's going on. It seems quite straightforward, with a very slight underlying thing of something's not quite right. Something doesn't quite seem as it is. Personally, I'd probably give this a 7.5 out of 10. I would expect later episodes to give us much more information and kind of more action and more story development and stuff like that. Does kind of concern me that we only have an hour and a half left to kind of fit that information in, unless we are going to get a second series. Because it does say season 1. So you never know, we might get some cliffhanger ending at the end of the 4th episode and then have to wait another year for season 2. Which will kill me, by the way, Capcom. Do not do that to me. But yeah, I think graphically it was done really well. It's possibly a little bit of a shame that it wasn't filmed in 4K, but it's not that much of an issue considering it's a CGI film anyway. Audio-wise, I've got no problems with. I have seen some people bitching and whining on Facebook about why wasn't it released as a single film. This was disappointing series, blah, blah, blah. It's like, how can you call it a disappointing series when you've only got 1 episode? You might not be happy with the way that 1 episode went out, but you've only got 1 episode. What did you think? The whole series was just one zombie in the White House, he shot it in the head and that was over and done with? Slap yourself in the face. Think it through. Right, either way. Yeah, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy the series, and like I say, this will mean that I am creating more content on Resident Evil again now that we have got things back up and running, and I hope to see you all soon. And guys, please let me know what you think in the comments of the series and anything else you want me to cover Resident Evil wise, and I will see you again. Bye!